let the show begin. You know what I'm saying? I like how we
What's
got
our music for the day?
We don't have music for the day, but
Oh.
we don't. I don't really have anything pulled up. Here, ready? No, I got something. Don't worry. I got something. There's always something in my head. Trust me. Like with the way my head works, there's always music playing.
Just get a song about wakeboarding.
Nah, we're not gonna talk about wakeboarding.
No, I'm not talking about it. I'll just play a song about it.
Yeah, let's see if that. Hopefully, that's exactly what I wanted. I just hate how loud this shit gets. I got it on mute. All right, you ready? Are you ready?
Are we recording audio?
Yes, audio is being recorded. Where's my glass? All right, we're still good on that. We're only a minute in, so it's good. We're not going too far. I don't like having to edit off more than a minute or two for the front. Ready? Oh, motherfucking fizz. Let's go.
There's a trick. Stick your finger in it.
Yeah, I won't do that.
The oil in your skin.
Yeah, no, I don't want the oils in my skin getting into the oils in my drink.
Drinking it anyway.
Have you ever fucking looked at the fucking top of Pepsi, especially on like an angle like this or some shit? It just fucking looks like an oil slick sitting on top of the ocean. It really does.
Yeah.
It's like I started noticing that a lot and really like slowed down drinking Pepsi after that. Like, oh shit, what am I? I'm putting that into my body every day. There's the book for you. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give it to you after the show, or I'll email it to you or some shit.
Yeah, email it to me because then I can get it on my phone.
That's it. Sounds good. Let's make sure that's okay. It's like we gotta come up with our own intro music as well. We have to come up with an intro song that is uniquely ours, because if and when, it's not an if, it's really a when the show gets to a certain point, if we're using anything that's even close to copyright material like this,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to distribute our show the way we want to, or it's not going to be allowed to become as popular as we want it to become, because we're using copyright material without permission. You know what I'm saying? Which is good. We're not using the whole song itself. We're using just an instrumental, but still, an instrumental is can still be considered copyright material. So we have to come up with our own song. Bottom line, we got to come up with our own song. Nothing wrong with that, right?
How are we going to do that?
Huh?
How are we going to do that?
We'll talk about it after the show, alright? Because it's time to get started. So let's go here. Let's hide our icons. Let's hide this bad boy. Fine. We're good to go. I thought this was a much more upbeat song. It's gotta pick up. It's gotta. Seriously. Oh, come on. Here we go. Yeah! There's another. Hold on. It gave us another little instrument there. Alright. You gotta be kidding me. That would be a cool instrumental. Not a cool instrumental. Cool intro, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty epic. Welcome everybody to episode 7 of 3NN. My name is Nick Tesla. His name is
Ryan McFadden.
We're gonna have a fucking great time today. Pardon my language. We're gonna have a wonderful time today. We got a few different things to talk about. Some very important issues. This is the show where we like to talk about the issues that many other shows don't want to talk about. One thing I notice out there is there's so many other podcasts. You can literally look online, just type into Google podcast, and then go up to the search tools up at the top and look at literally change the videos, go to the search tools, and look at the past week. Just type in podcast in the past week of podcasts that have come up. And look for people that got, I don't want to say crappy podcasts, because that's definitely not what we have here, but people that are doing podcasts on their own that may look maybe a little homemade. Look at 99.9% of all of those podcasts, they are not talking about anything of any kind of importance. They're talking about, and I don't want to say, to them it's probably important, and to not a majority, a group of people, a minority out there.
Today
that
at school,
people care
Becky
about.
kissed Jimmy, and it was
Well,
so
not
awesome.
even that. That's a very, very minority group.
But you do get those that come up
I'm
with those
talking about,
searches.
I'm talking about a group, a show like me and you, which trust me, I thought about doing it on our show, but it's like, it's not important enough. It's really like, it's not a social issue that needs to be addressed. It is like, the only time I'll ever want to get into it is maybe if there's any kind of corruption involved or rigging involved, but it's like people who have a sports podcast where they're just sitting there talking about, we like the Giants, man, go Giants. Well, I don't like the Giants, and I don't want to talk about the Giants, okay? So, but it's also like, and no offense to you, I know you're a video game fan and have been a professional video gamer, but it's like, do you know how many podcasts out there are literally dedicated to video games? There are thousands.
Yes.
Thousands of podcasts where the people will continue to make the podcasts, and it's only about video games. It's strictly only talking about video games. Sometimes they're a little bit interesting. I've watched a couple of them. Trust me, I'm interested in what other people do when they're putting in work into a podcast to make sure that I'm not replicating what other people are doing. Whereas to me, it's like, are you doing anything important? Are you like, is this going anywhere? Is it trying to achieve a certain goal? Or is it just to talk about video games or just to talk about sports or whatever?
For the most part,
hurts me to
you're
see
pretty
shows.
much spot on there. There is one put out by Beyond Entertainment that actually deals exclusively with the competition settings for whatever upcoming tournaments, team changes, things like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of important to the community.
It's important to the
But
community.
the other ones
But in
are
the-
basically exactly
but
what
also, but I'm
are
talking
just,
about
the new game came out and this
in the
map
overall-
sucks. And,
Well, that's basically the same thing as saying. That's basically the same.
that's
thing.
like saying you're a wakeboarding champion. I
Well,
mean,
exactly.
nobody cares. It's
Well, yeah, exactly. It's important. That's like basically saying like on a sports show where like you want to talk about stats on a sports show. Yeah, there's a lot of people, especially with fantasy football. That's very important to a lot of people. But in the grand scope of things, is it
it means
important
nothing.
when it comes to the Pacific Garbage Patch or the Great Pacific Garbage Patch or homelessness and poverty and starvation around the world? Like, does that have any what is that doing to help address those issues, to bring any attention to those issues? It's not.
Absolutely
it's,
nothing.
It's people just falling right into the whole distraction mode of like all these distractions, especially us Americans. We're given all these distractions, and we hook on these distractions, and then sometimes we're even like, oh, I want to make a show about these distractions. I want to do my own radio show about these distractions. Instead of saying, let's, like, what is it like, and that's what's irks me about it. It's like, what are your kids really going to look at it? How are your kids are really going to look at it? And unless things change, like, the sad part is, a lot of those people's kids are going to be like, oh, that's cool that they did
Yeah.
that. Whereas my kids, if
I have
things
to
don't
interrupt.
change, may be like, what was the point of even doing that? Like, nobody cared about that stuff back then, so why would, but it's like, somebody needed to care, like how the founding fathers were like a very small minority of people who really cared about it. Well,
If they had the technology to do a podcast back then, it would have been a great podcast.
But they would have been doing a podcast, but it may have been very, very much like how our podcast is, where it's a lot of times, or our type of podcast, and people who do our type of podcast, it's hard to really, you can find yourself a nice 1,000 member fan base, or even 10,000 fan member base, but it's very hard to get into the hundreds of thousands and the millions of fans for your show, because there's not that many people who are really that interested in the issues that matter. They'd rather talk about Kim Kardashian or The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or the NFL game last week or
If you search
Call of Duty Modern Warfare or
punch in
Advanced
Google
Warfare,
or YouTube. Just punch in Google or YouTube, and you can find literally weekly podcasts, sometimes daily, just about TV shows, reality shows, things like this week on Survivor. So and so, who do you think's going to be eliminated? Blah 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 blah.
Well, the worst, I think,
Who
honestly,
cares?
the worst that I've seen are the Hangout podcasts, and I did a
Oh.
Hangout podcast called Grown Up Stuff Podcast, and honestly, when it comes to Hangout podcast, if you don't know what Hangout is, it's now a part of YouTube, but it's also a part of Google, or Google Plus, where you can hang out with multiple different people in the same kind of, like, all on the same screen. Like, it's kind of like Skype, but you can have 5 or 6 different people and everybody's pictures down at the bottom, right? Well, you saw a lot of Hangout podcasts popping up, and I thought ours was, the grown-up stuff was half decent compared to a lot of the other ones. Because if you start looking into the Hangout podcasts, you'll find just literally a lot of teenagers and they don't even, they're not even really, like, it's not like they all go to school together or anything like that. They're just, I hate to
random
call them
people.
nerds, but they're just kids who don't really have much else to do and have found other people who don't really have much else to do but have like a common interest, whether it be a video game, whether it be Dragon Ball Z, whether it be something, it's usually the stupidest stuff, but they all have a common interest and they do a podcast together and they don't even talk about the common interest. They barely even talk about the common interest. It's literally just a show of them chit-chatting back and forth, and it's like, well, yeah, I know. It's like some like 13-year-old kid, like, yeah, I know, like, I can't stand when that happens, you know? Like, sometimes I'll go to plug in my phone, and when I plug in my phone, it's like, it doesn't even want to act like it's really getting charged, and I can't stand when that happens. And then there's like another little girl, like, yeah, I know, like, that sucks, you know? Like, I don't want to do that. That happens to my phone, and I don't want to have to deal with that. But it's like, what do I get a new charger? And it's like, really? Like, nobody cares about your stupid bickering. It's like, that's where we've gotten, where so many people have seen reality TV become successful, where they think, okay, well, just me being me and just talking is just what people want to watch. And they don't even pay attention if anybody's even watching it. But the saddest part is, when it comes to video game podcasts and sports podcasts and all that, people want to watch it. That's the saddest part. So these podcasts, I hate to say they suck. I'm not putting most of them down, but the content that they're bringing to the people is content that is regurgitated day after day by everybody at work, everybody in society, everybody on TV. You know what I'm saying? You can't watch the news without sports being brought up, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, I guarantee you, within the past week, or the past months, or the past month or 2 months, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare has been mentioned on the news or on a non-video game cable network. I guarantee you it's been mentioned and there's commercials like crazy on TV about it. When is there ever a commercial for anything about Ron Paul's Liberty Institute?
Well, they tried to bury Ron Paul, so I don't think that commercial would ever air if it even existed.
Exactly. So honestly, when it comes to our show, I'm not sitting here trying to like toot our own horn or anything like that. We've got a lot of work to do, and we've got especially studio-wise.
And anybody watching, Ron Paul is not the loony whatever they tried to make him out to be. He's a very intelligent man. You should look at some of his speeches and read some of what he's written and listen to what the man has to say.
Well, I think when it comes to that, and then I think we'll move on to our topics of the week, which actually tie into this, believe it or not. When it comes to that, Ron Paul is, and it was good to have Ron Paul as a representative of that. Ron Paul is basically the new generation of politics. The new generation of politics is come in and speak the truth.
Yeah.
Come in, speak the truth about what's going on and what needs to happen. And after that truth is spoken, there's only so much you can do about actually getting it done because of the way the political system is set up and the way that the old politics are still, for the most part, in charge. But you have to come in and you have to expose and do what you can. You have to speak the truth. You can't blow smoke up people's asses, and you have to at least try to do the right thing. Whereas so many other politicians, the old style politicians, like I'm saying, there's 2 styles of politicians now. The old style politician says what everybody wants to hear when it's campaign time, and then when it's actually time to perform and follow up, does the opposite, but then does either 1 or 2 things during their tenure of being in whatever seat they're in, does 1 or 2 things that they know the public will appreciate or that the public will like, even though they're doing other things like raising taxes and maybe even embezzling, and who knows, there's so much corruption and stuff that goes on, right? But they do 1 or 2 good things either for the community or for the people, or they do stuff. Like, there's a lot of people who think like everything they do is corrupt, everything they do. No, they actually do stuff that they think is the good thing or the right thing, but it's like, I would much rather see them not give a damn about that stuff and actually fulfill their promises and actually start believing the crap that they were spewing when they were running for office and believing that maybe they should actually start trying some of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times you'll see a politician who sounds like when they're running for office, they sound like they really want to do the right thing. And they're your honest politician. They're your honest local politician. Then they get into office and you're like, oh no, he was just a businessman. And
Yeah.
he's just being a businessman now still, and we're kind of stuck with him. And so let's hope that next time it's like, no, like what's good is the new generation of politics is coming in. Ron Paul represented the new generation of politics, and that was
People like Ron Paul, Ted Cruz are starting to really
yeah, it's sad
pop up
because
everywhere.
a lot of people associate Rand Paul also with that, and Rand Paul is definitely
He is not his father.
He's not his father, but I also wouldn't associate him with the new generation of politics. The new generation of politics right now, that's why it was good to have Ron Paul on a national stage. But since he's left the national stage, I don't believe there's really, I don't want to say anybody on the national stage, because I'm sure there's a couple people that.
I mean, there's Jesse Ventura, but they're trying to bury him.
But he's not even. I'm talking about in a actual, like, Ron Paul's still on the national stage. If you want to bring up Jesse Ventura, I'm talking about somebody who's actually still in a political position,
Gotcha.
or still in political power in some way, shape, or form.
2016, if Ventura makes it into the
Oh
White
yeah,
House,
if Ventura makes it in the White House, but
we're
that's
gonna
not
see
happen.
some good
But
changes.
that's not going to happen. They'll kill
I know,
Jesse.
they won't let it
They will
happen.
kill Jesse Ventura before he gets into the White House, before
Yes.
he steps foot into the White House as the President of the United States. They will kill Jesse.
because he's already seen too much as an ABC.
And the saddest part is that right there, and like that's what's important about our show, is that we're willing to step out here and actually, and a lot of people would say that's stupid. I can't believe you would even say that. But we're all willing to step out here and put our lives on the line by saying something that sounds so absurd like that, but it is the absolute truth. When you pay attention and you see how Ron Paul was how the direction that Ron Paul was heading in 2012, and the fact that there was a very good chance that maybe he wasn't going to win the presidency, but he was going to be on the ballot just as much as Ross Perot was in the talks and on the ballots in 1992 and 1996, I believe, right? He would have been right there in the forefront. The difference between then, when Ross Perot was running, and 2012, when Ron Paul ran, is the system has become so corrupt that it did not allow Ron Paul to reach any sort of a successful stage of you're going to be on the ballot, you actually have a chance.
He wasn't even allowed into most of the debates.
He wasn't allowed into, well, he was allowed into some debates. And
Some, yes.
Some debates, there were some he was kept out of. But it's more, I don't know. It's more just, it's, I don't even know how to explain it.
Well, I want to say
the whole Ron
it's
Paul
sad
thing,
that
honestly.
people don't care about it, but it's really, people don't even realize it. Man,
Well,
I
that's-
don't have time to look at how they're trying to demonize
Well,
Ron
that's
Paul.
the saddest
Survivor's
part.
on.
Well, that's the saddest part is if
The
you
Giants
really,
played it
that's
up.
how you know that even during election time, when everybody acts like they're paying attention.
What's with
this
these
and that,
political commercials? I'm trying to watch the game.
nobody's paying attention when it comes to election time, and I'm talking about national election for our presidential for the president. Nobody is actually paying attention. They
Well, that's
act like
obvious.
they're paying attention, but they're paying attention by watching CNN or watching
Mainstream media.
MSNBC or Fox News. They're watching mainstream media and reading articles on Yahoo and reading articles on MSN and reading articles on I hate to say Google because
Which I'll tell you later
a
on
news
why
site
those
itself.
are not accurate sources for information.
Exactly. But they rely on those and don't actually look into candidates and issues
Yep.
for themselves, and they're told what they should believe, whether they're Republican or Democrat or even somewhat independent, kind of what independents believe or what third-party candidates believe.
Well, this
But
is
the different
obvious
third-party candidates
from 2008
are much more likely
and
to look into
2012.
their own stuff or to look into their candidates and look into the issues themselves. Third-party candidates are much more
Oh, yeah.
likely to know those issues. Hence, maybe why third-party candidates or the whole third-party system or the whole third party altogether, in a nutshell, it has no chance ever.
Yeah.
In the past 50 years, I don't think has had a chance whatsoever of actually winning an election.
Well, even if they win the popular vote, which I've seen it come close, I've never ever seen any states, like through the Electoral College, throw votes to a third party candidate.
Yeah, no. they
In
don't.
my lifetime.
They don't, because it's a two-party dictatorship. It really
Yes.
is. All right, so we'll move on.
And they're the same party, but that's another story.
I just wanted basically to say how I really believe we have something good here because we are actually approaching issues that a lot of other shows wouldn't even be willing to touch. Like we're going to have. I know you're not 100% ready for it. Let's just say I don't want to say you're not 100% comfortable because I know you will be 100% comfortable with it. But I don't know if you're 100% ready for it. But we will have it in due time. I'm hoping before the new year, or at least shortly after the new year. We're gonna have a religion episode, and so many. Like I don't know of any other podcast I can think of out there that would be willing to touch on religion, and a lot of people are going to see that episode, and I think that's going to bring a lot of people to watch it. They're going to see that episode, or see that we're coming up on that episode, that we announced that episode, and they're going to watch it to think that we're demonizing their religion. And the good thing about the way that we're going to handle that is we may give some cons of what religion has. Religion, I'm not talking about faith, I'm not talking about God, I'm talking about religion, man-made religion. And I don't say blind servitude or blind following of religion because that makes it sound like cons, but the good parts that have come from religion and the bad parts that have come from religion and all of the religions, and how a lot of them are somewhat the same and a lot of them do have many differences. But there's also some misconceptions about a lot of religions out there. You know, like there's a misconception about Buddhism, that Buddhism, they are completely anti-violent. And it's like, if you really look into that, there's Buddhist monks, and they're Buddhist monks, like what? This is crazy to hear, but there's Buddhist monks that have been responsible for the genocide of a people, or like the genocide of a village, or like
Yes.
a small nation or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were responsible for mass murder, basically, in so many words. And it's like
There were Buddhist assassins back in the day.
Buddhist monks, like Buddhism's not
Yeah.
violence. How are you murdering people? And same with like Islam and Muslim is. There's a lot of people who believe that it's a religion of violence and converting the world into Islam and taking over the world and spreading hate and destruction. And
Actually, true Islam is very tolerant and peaceful.
exactly. And I told somebody pretty close to me, probably maybe a month ago. They were talking about how Islam wants to bring destruction to America. Islam is a
Because that's what the mainstream media is telling us.
But right, and this person who's close to me is quite religious, quite Christian, right? But I stopped them when they were saying that, and I said, well, actually, that's a misconception. Islam and Muslim are the religion of peace, and in the Quran it talks about. He's like, no, in the Quran it talks about the destruction of all other religions, or the destruction of humanity, or Earth, or something, and there's some evil stuff in there, and it's like,
Okay, have you read the Bible?
exactly, and I think that's the exact point I brought up, is you can look at anything in any kind of light that you want, and that's what we're
Yeah.
going to do on our religion episode, is we're going to look at it in both lights.
Book of Revelation.
Because there is
sounds familiar.
but there's for all the people out there that would be like, yeah, good, they're gonna show all the bad stuff that Christian people have done out there, and all the bad stuff that the Islam or the Muslim people have done out there, and even all the bad stuff that the Scientologists have done, and all this. But what about the good that they brought to it? That's where we're gonna blow people's minds.
Yeah.
Because we're not pro Scientology, but we're actually gonna maybe look into and find some, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we're gonna find something that Scientology has done.
They have
that's
Tom
good.
Cruise. They have Tom Cruise.
That's
there we
not
go.
something that they've done that's good. Okay, that's a detriment to the world.
Well, yeah.
But and no
Trying
offense,
here.
No offense, Tom Cruise, and I liked him in what was
Top Gun was good.
it? No. It
Cocktail.
was just around. It was like a.
What, Oblivion?
Was
Or
it the
Jack
Losers?
Reacher?
I think it might have been the Losers.
No, he wasn't in the Losers.
You sure?
Positive.
Then not the Expendables. Was it the Expendables?
No, he wasn't in that.
There was a spit. No, not.
I think Jack Reacher you're thinking.
No, not Jack Reacher. Oh, it had Jack Black in it. It was like they were filming a film in Vietnam, and then the film crew kind of left, but they still thought they were filming the thing because the director was with them, saying that like the film crew was hidden and everything. Well, Tom Cruise is in that. I liked him in that. But
I
anyway,
have to look that
we're
up.
going to approach every religion and actually, instead of just saying, oh, we're going to take this side on it and they're bad and look at all the bad stuff that they've done, we're going to say they've done this bad stuff, but they've actually done good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Is there any way, because there's a lot of people who believe that we need to eliminate religion. And it's like, I fear eliminating religion because I don't want people to eliminate faith and a belief in God.
True.
Because that is a scary path to
True.
go down. I believe that's a scary path to go down. Maybe people, especially a lot of atheists out there, who think that's the only path to go down, the right path to go down. But I think that's a wrong path to go down. can't we just eliminate the negative and the hurtful aspects to the human race out of these religions? Isn't there any way that we can maybe, and it's hard because it's like when you start talking about that, you're like, but that's all written in scripture and that's all set in stone. It's basically set in stone for those religions. So how do they go about it? So that religion show should be very good, and it's not something to feel nervous about because we're really going to look at it in a subjective manner or an objective manner, whichever. Like, I need to really look into the definition of subjective and objective because one of them means what I want it to mean. But
objective is you're looking at it outside looking in with no particular
okay,
side.
then we're going to look at it objectively. That's exactly what I want to say. Thank you very much. But in going in with everything that we just got into, I think it's only right to move into selfishness and the apathy of the American citizen. And,
because they really are. And the sad thing is I don't think they realize they're being apathetic because nobody's really putting these issues in front of them for them to care about.
Yeah, you're right.
All they're getting is what mainstream media is. I said recently that I think everybody nowadays seems to have some sense of entitlement. I deserve because of this, I deserve because of that, because that's what they're getting from the television shows that are filling their heads with mindless fluff.
Yeah, you're right. It's all this. It's all the distractions. Honestly, it's I think it's the totality of everything. Like, it's not just television shows, it's radio. Like, you think about how much people drive in this country, it's radio. And also people, it's not like that's the only time people listen to the radio.
You can get it in music too.
You can get it in music. It's
put their message out there.
It's subliminally, whatever, in so much music and so much TV. It's in all kind of media.
Sometimes it's not even subliminal, it's just in the lyrics.
If you watch, and that's why I think a movie like They Live is a very important movie to see, because you understand how everything around you is really pre-programmed. If you can see through it, like, I feel like I can see through it, and it almost takes like the luster out of life sometimes, because it's like I used to think that, like, I almost used to see like glitter, everything glittering around me and everything sparkling around me. It's not like, oh, everything's new, but it was like things. It's almost like all this entertainment was put up around me.
Yeah.
And like it felt like I put all this entertainment up around me. This is all the stuff I like, and then you start to realize it's like, not just in your house, I'm talking about all around you, and it's like, this is the world we love living in. It's like when you're outside in it, and it's like you come to a realization where, especially when you see a movie like They Live, it's like seeing a billboard talking about like the newest liquor, and once you really start to, like, I don't want to say consider yourself intelligent, but you really start to like understand how a lot of things work and what's wrong with society and the world today. And you see a billboard advertising a nice big bottle of Crown Royal, and you're like, you know how many people are seeing that? Like, one, that there's alcoholics out there who are seeing that, like, I need to go get me a bottle of Crown Royal. Yeah. But, like, how many people are seeing that and, like, thinking, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have a party this weekend. Maybe I will get a bottle of Crown Royal, or maybe I'll get a bottle of something else. You know what I'm saying?
Or I haven't had that in a while.
The advertisement of a poison. So, like, if this was They Live, and that's kind of how I see things sometimes, is you look up to I look up to that billboard, and I don't see a bottle of Crown Royal. I see a nondescript plain bottle, maybe shaped like the Crown Royal bottle, but I see skull and crossbones on it, and it says poison right underneath that skull and crossbones. And they're advertising that, and there's like people and there's chicks like, ooh, like desiring it and stuff, and it's like, I see the chicks desiring a bottle of poison. Yeah. And I'm like, that's where we're at. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, we've gotten to the point where everybody accepts those things. I was talking about it at work the other day, it's like, it's so funny that people have an instinctual knowledge that the pharmaceutical industry is somewhat corrupt, and that it's really just about money. You can tell 90% of people out there that tell everybody out there that the pharmaceutical industry is just about money. 90% of them will agree with you in one way, shape, or form. We'll say, well, yeah.
But they'll still go to their doctor for
exactly.
medication.
But then, and they agree, and some of them will even agree to an extent. Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Hold on 1 second.
And we have a calling guest at this
No, we don't
time.
have a calling guest. I don't take fucking calls during the show. I don't know why somebody would call.
Well,
During the
it's
show.
possible somebody knows that we are filming right
No,
now and had something vital to input.
that's not the case.
It's the Secret Service.
That's
Onto
true. I
us.
should have just had that put on silent or whatever. So what were we just saying?
We were talking about billboards for poison and people just
and how
accept it.
Exactly how, and I was talking about at work the other day, how you know that the pharmaceutical industry is inherently all about money. But then all of a sudden you get some like life-threatening disease or
And you go
life-threatening
straight to
thing,
them.
and you go straight to the doctor, and you
Give me anything.
instinctually know that that doctor is like kind of working for the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry. He may act like he cares about you or whatever, but you instinctively know that that doctor is working for the pharmaceutical industry, or trying to make the pharmaceutical industry money and make himself more money, make you a recurring customer until you die. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You instinctively know that, but you go there and you listen to what he's got to say